Hey, how's it going guys? My name's Harry from superherogains.com, and in today's video I'm going to go over my top 5 reasons why your workout might suck. Let's try not to get offended. Okay, so jumping right into it, reason number 1 is that you don't have a plan. Now, we all have those occasional days where we go to the gym and we just do what we feel like, pick and choose random exercises, and there's nothing wrong with doing that every now and then. I'll often do this kind of thing when I'm going to a new gym and I want to try out different machines, different equipment, or if I'm just meeting up with a friend and, we just want to do some of our favorite exercises and not have to worry about a strict program. Now, like I said, it's fine to do this every now and then, but the other 99% of your workouts, you want to have a structure to it and know exactly what you're doing when you go into the gym. So what I mean by that is you need to know the exercises you're doing. You need to know the intensity, so how much weight you're going to be lifting. You want to know the amount of reps you're doing, or rep ranges if that's how you're playing it. You want to know how many sets you're going to be performing, and you want to know the rest times as well. Now, as you get more advanced, there are probably other things you want to consider, but for the basics, for beginners, that's the main things that you want to know when you're going into the gym. Basically, if you know what you're doing when you go into the gym, that means you're going to get more out of your session, and you're not just going to be wandering around the gym, wondering what exercises and what you're going to be doing that day. Okay, so number 2 is that you don't stick at a routine for long enough. So once you've got a plan, what you want to do next is make sure you stick at that plan for a decent amount of time. There's always a lot of bad gym advice going around that says you have to confuse your muscles and constantly change things up to keep your body guessing. But honestly, swapping around exercises every other day, every other week is one of the worst things you can do if you want to make progress. So it's true that your body does get used to what you throw at it, but you don't want to change things up in terms of the exercises that you're choosing. The way you want to change things up is by increasing the stimulus that you're providing to your body. So this means sticking with a routine for long enough and progressing in that so you can actually see if you're moving in the right direction. And this leads me to point number 3, which is that you're not pushing yourself. So when you're brand new to the gym, you can walk in there, pick any exercises, pretty much do anything, and you're going to build muscle for the first few months. Even a bad workout is going to provide new stimulus if before that you weren't doing anything at all. But after a while, your progress will stall, you'll hit a plateau, and in order to keep moving forward, you're going to have to provide new stimulus and push yourself further than what you're already doing. Now, there's 3 main ways you can do this, and that's either to increase your sets, your reps, or the weight you're lifting. As with before, there are other things you can do once you're more advanced, but these are the basics and these are the main things you'd want to focus on. Now, focusing on increasing any one of these 3 will help you grow, but in my opinion, if you're new, the main one you should focus on is increasing the weight you're lifting and aim to get stronger over time. Now, there's nothing wrong with increasing the reps, and doing so is definitely a way that you can increase the total work that you're doing in the gym, but there are a few problems with just focusing on increasing the reps. So let's say you're doing 50 kilo bench press for 10 reps. Now, you can push that and try and get towards 15 reps, but the more you try and push it and add reps, you start to move in towards more endurance-based work rather than hypertrophy or strength. Now, if that's your goal, that's absolutely fine, but if you want to get stronger and bigger, you probably want to keep it into a more moderate rep range. Another problem with just increasing reps is that it can be very hard to tell if that's the limit of your capability. So when you start to get in towards 15 reps, that sort of area, it can be very hard to tell if you weren't able to get another rep because you physically couldn't lift anymore, or if you were just tired or your muscles were starting to feel sore. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, if you were doing 6 reps and you couldn't get another one, it's probably because you're just not strong enough to get that extra rep and not because your muscles were feeling sore and you didn't want to. So when you start to go into those higher reps, it can sometimes be a bit of a subconscious thing where you don't want to push yourself to get another rep just because you're starting to feel sore in the muscles. So you can start to add in more sets, and there's nothing wrong with this, but if you start to add too many, that can easily take your workout from a manageable 45 minutes to an hour and make it go towards an hour and a half, even pushing that sometimes. And if you're new, the main thing you want to do is make sure your routine is something that's sustainable. And if you start pushing your workouts too long, then you're probably going to start to hate your workouts. And as soon as you start to hate your workouts, that's it, that's over. You really need to enjoy this because it needs to be a long-term thing. And if you're not enjoying your workouts and you're getting bored of it after an hour and a half in the gym, you're probably not going to stick at it for a while. And also, adding in extra sets can be an easy way to start adding too much total training volume, and especially when you're new and you don't really know how much you can handle, that's not really a good thing. So you want to keep it more conservative and more moderate, but still allow yourself to progress. So that's why I believe as a beginner, your main focus should be to get stronger. And I think that's the most important way to improve and increase the amount of workload you're doing, especially in the beginning. So keep it simple, learn good form, and get stronger on the main compound exercises. And this leads me to point number 4, which is that you're trying to run before you can walk. So it's very easy to look at someone who's big and jacked and think, I'm going to copy their workout routine because they clearly know what they're doing. And that might sound reasonable at first, but most of these workouts from these guys who are more advanced, they're probably going to contain things that are completely unnecessary to you, your goal, and the level that you're at. So if you're new to training within your first 12 months, you want to keep your routine relatively simple. You want to keep it enjoyable and manageable so that it's something you can commit to over the long term. Now, there's no set rule for this, but as a guide, I'd recommend keeping your workout to contain 3 to 4 compound exercises and then add in maybe 1 or 2 isolation exercises at the end. So compound exercises are the exercises that use multiple muscle groups. I'm talking deadlift, squat, bench press, overhead press, barbell rows, pull-ups, these main core fundamental exercises that you want to get good at before you start trying to complicate things. And then if you want to, you can add in some isolation work at the end of your workout. So that would be things like your dumbbell curls, tricep extensions, lateral raises, all the stuff that's effectively for the pretty muscles. And a side note for women, a lot of the exercises you see on Instagram are not the best exercises you want to be doing. And that's simply because a lot of these exercises, especially all the glute exercises, they're more just really good for showing off their ass, but they're not really the best exercises that you want to focus on. I mean, if you want to get a load of likes on Instagram and that's your goal instead of actually making progress, go right ahead. So I suppose it does depend what your goal is. But no, I recommend sticking to your basic compound exercises, getting stronger at those, and building up a good foundation of strength before you start trying to add in other things. And the 5th and final point, and this one's not actually to do with training, but it's to do with nutrition, and that is you're not eating correctly. So if you're doing everything right with your workouts, you're including compound exercises, you're not trying to cram in too much volume, and you're not progressing as you want to be, you're not gaining strength, you're not gaining size, then this can be down to not eating correctly. And what I mean here is not that you need to suddenly eat clean foods, I simply mean that you need to eat more. It's a very common thing that people who are struggling to gain weight, they're not actually eating as much as they think they are. And the opposite holds true as well. People who are trying to lose weight, they're probably eating more than they think. So if your goal is to build size and strength, then you need to make sure you're at least eating enough to support your training. And you probably want to eat slightly above the amount that your body needs to maintain its weight. Now, there's plenty of calculators you can use to estimate how many calories you should be eating. None of them are perfect, but they are a good way to estimate it and give you a good starting point. I've actually built a free calculator on my website, which I will link down below, so you can use that and get a good gauge for how many calories you should be eating depending on what your goal is. The next thing I'll add is that you don't just want to assume you're eating it because it feels like you're eating a lot. And the same goes for people who are trying to lose weight. Don't just eat X amount of food because you feel like you're not eating much. Because unless you've tracked your food for a while and you have a good gauge, a good insight of portion sizes and what calories are in certain foods, then you're probably massively off on what you think you're eating. Which is why I recommend you spend some time tracking your food, get a set of digital scales, and weigh out everything. You don't have to do it forever. I know some people don't like the idea of counting calories for the rest of their life, which is absolutely fine. And even someone like me who tracks most of my food, I do have days where I don't track anything and I just eyeball everything. But the only reason I'm able to do that is because I've spent long enough actually tracking my food. So if I see a plate with certain foods on it, I can guess how many calories are in that meal, and I might not be 100% correct, but I'm going to be pretty close. But the only way you get there is by spending enough time tracking. So download an app like MyFitnessPal or MyMacros+, and weigh out your food and just get a gauge of what you're eating so you can see if you are actually eating the amount that you think you are. So those are my 5 tips on why your workout might suck. I know the last one wasn't really to do with workouts, but it still affects how much you progress in terms of your training. So to sum it up, usually when people aren't making progress, a big part is down to nutrition, but I don't like it when people say it's 70% nutrition, 30% training, because if your goal is just general weight loss, that's fine. You can focus on nutrition. But if your goal is also to build muscle or get toned, as some people still call it, then you also need to focus on training. And in that sense, it's not 70% nutrition, 30% training. It's 100% onto your nutrition and 100% onto your training, and you have to get both right if you want to get the results you're looking for. But anyway, those are my 5 tips. I hope you learned something. If you did, leave a comment down below. If you've got any specific questions relating to you and your goals, feel free to drop me a message and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Also, if you like, check out my website, superherogains.com, where there's more articles and even training and coaching services that I offer as well. And if you check out my Instagram, you can stay up to date with all the other information I'm posting on there. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one.